What makes Ferrari so special? Every child grows up wanting to see, touch, feel, hear a Ferrari. It just has something about it, an allure that no other brand has. And yeah, how can you not? You know, you're human. To race at Le Mans as a child, that was the dream. Everyone's got something that is sort of their number one bucket list. Mine was to drive a Ferrari at Le Mans. And you know, in 2005 I got that opportunity. Sadly, with 4 hours to go, one of the mechanics in the team we were with forgot to do a wheel nut up, so we lost a wheel. So we did a DNF, which was a shame. Then in 07, I went back with two great friends. It was still the biggest thing in the world for me, because most of the time when we get to do that thing that's on our bucket list that's extraordinary, you get there and you think, what's next? And that's all that matters to you. You want to meet that girl that you met in the pub the other night, and you want to take her on a date, and nothing else matters. But you've taken her out on the date and you think, oh, actually she's not that nice after all. So there's always an anticlimax, but going to Le Mans, it wasn't an anticlimax. It was certainly one of the biggest things I've ever done, and certainly one of the biggest privileges of my life. And to drive around there, at any point, but especially during the night, in the rain, and you just think, you're pinching yourself, and you're thinking, like, I'm here, I'm allowed to, it was an extraordinary experience. And we missed the podium there by 90 seconds, which was a bit of a shame. We were 3 AMs in the pro class because they didn't have an AM class in those days. That's how old I am. But it was something that I don't think is a repeatable experience, and I feel lucky to have banked it. As a child, absolutely, yeah. I used to go year in, year out, and I remember even before the new pits were built, sitting on top of the old pits watching the Jaguars coming through there, when the Mazdas won there, and I just absolutely adored it. And then suddenly to be given that opportunity, to go and do that 15 years later was, wow, that was so grown up. In 2007, I was really lucky. I did Le Mans in 07, but I also drove an MC12 GT1 car, which I think was sort of made by God, really, because most racing cars are functional. They work, they do something for you. The MC12 is just drop dead gorgeous. You look at it from every angle and you just start smiling. And it's just, if you met a girl like that, it would predominantly be a relationship. And the car had everything. And then I was fortunate enough to race it that season in the AM class of the FIA. And I remember driving it in Bucharest on the street circuit, and it was pissing with rain, absolutely throwing it down. And the car was wheel spinning 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th all the way down the straight, literally fully lit. And I put it on pole, and I just remember thinking, yeah, if I had to go, this would now be the right time to go, because actually, what's next after this is really difficult to find. And yeah, it was a spectacular car. It talked to you. The gear change was just precision at its best. The engine noise was just insane. The driving position, you'd move the steering wheel that much and the car would move that much with you. You talked to it, it responded. It wasn't just beautiful, it was functional, it did everything. It was the perfect racing car. The 250 GTO was an epic project to put back together, and I did that in conjunction with Ferrari Factory, and it was a real privilege to have that shared combination with them. The car is, you know, is so far ahead of its time, it's just rude. And you can actually, when you start taking that car to pieces and putting it back together, you actually start to understand and realise why Ferrari made its mark in the 60s like no other brand. It was so ahead of its time. The handling of the car, just sublime. The engine power, everything about it just felt lovely. And every time I would go for a drive with that car, I'd make an adjustment, try and improve this, improve that. And then finally, it just all clicked together. And you're just thinking, yeah, as a driving machine, this is spectacular. It's not a road car in reality, it's a racing car that just found itself on the road. And it's, yeah, it's special. Taking the car around Goodwood was, I had to be a little bit careful with the noise meters, even though I had a standard exhaust on there. You know, once you start to get to 7,000–8,000 revs, she does sound quite lovely. And she just turned in beautifully, she stopped beautifully. She just has great manners. And you got out of there thinking, you know, the car flatters you as a driver. Because it's actually that good that you actually start to think you're quite good yourself. But actually the car's better than you, and that's the reality. I do own a Schumacher F1 car. It was a car that Schumacher and Eddie Irvine drove both in '99. I haven't had the opportunity to drive it yet, and I just, next year hopefully, I will actually tick that box, because it's a scary thought. You know, it's also left foot braking. I'm a traditional classic driver, and you know, your left foot is meant to rest, you know, on the side or to brace yourself, not to use it on the brake. You know, I'm not a millennium. I can't do those things yet. So it's exciting, and I will drive that car next year. I've got a few cars put away of my own, and every one of them I drive. Road cars, I'm fortunate enough to have a Daytona Spider, which when I watched A Star Is Born as a kid, I thought, oh yeah, got to have one of those. And watching Chris Christopherson drive off at 170 mile an hour with an 8-track on. So the first thing I did was put an 8-track in mine, because clearly that's the way forward. And then weirdly, I've got some English cars as well, which I absolutely adore. I've got an Aston Martin X-Pac Volante, which is just fab. It's like a dirty secret, makes loads of noise, big engine, lots of horsepower, really cool car. And a few other things, little cars, but every one of them makes you smile. And they all have there's no better or worse car, they all make you smile in a very different way. You know, the one I use probably one of the most is the Fiat 500, 1968. And that's just wonderful. You can drive it like you stole it, you can leave it wherever you want to, and everyone smiles when you're in it, so it's a happy car. The impossible dream, money, no object, what would you have? I'd have everything. I would have the rudest garage on the planet with money, no object. There would be obviously a 250 short wheelbase CFAC in there without any doubt, 250 California Spider, there would be a Ferrari P4, of course. There would be, I could just go on, there would be 100 cars in there without even trying. The 250 GTO, it would be in there, 250 Testarossa, it would be in there. But they all do different things. They all drive differently, they all make a slightly different noise, they give you a different sensation. God, the Gumball. Oh my God, that feels like a lifetime ago. Dear me. That would have been, I can't even remember the year, it was so long ago. It was certainly over 20 years ago. The first Gumball we did with a dear friend of mine who's no longer with us, sadly. We went in a 360 road car, manual, and off we went. And we weren't really sure what to expect. Max said, look, don't worry, it's going to be all fine. So we went, and we left London and drove to St. Petersburg, which was absolutely bonkers. You couldn't do that today and still be alive and not in jail in reality, because it was non-stop to wherever it was. Police were trying to stop you at places all over Eastern Europe. Well, we did actually get stopped, I think. Ended up in jail in Finland for a little while, and I think I'm banned in driving. Yeah, in Finland forever. So that was a little bit unlucky. It was a long time ago.
What did you get banned for?
It was really fast. They roadblocked the motorway. They were really cross. They were really cross. It was a lot. But they were unhappy. Kingham County, Arizona. Oh my goodness me. I got stopped there. It was 2004 or something. That was doing the bull run. And I was driving, I think, the camera car with some friends and some other cars, and they ended up, I thought it was a bit of a joke. They said, we're just gonna just take you down to the gas station, and so they arrested us and took us there, and then he then went to take off my handcuffs. I thought, this is great, it's much more comfortable. And then he put me in leg irons. I was like, shit, this is getting serious now. And when we got taken to county jail, I thought, this is getting really grown up now. And that was bad. And then prisoners were coming through wearing orange uniforms like Guantanamo Bay, and I started thinking I really need to leave here, And I was there with 2 other friends of mine. So we ended up, fortunately, doing a little deal with the local sheriff, made a small donation, and we were on our way again. But yeah, definitely not something I'd want to relive in a hurry. It was a long time ago. About a year ago, Andrew phoned me and said, we're going to see Dallara in Italy. And I said, I have no interest in going. He said, but they keep phoning and you keep saying yes, and so you've got to be polite and at least turn up. And I said, we have to go. So finally, I went under duress because I happened to be in Italy anyway, so it was only an hour away, so he made me go. And I drove the car because they asked me to. And I went up the mountain road in this little Dallara Stradale thing. I had their sales manager with me who was trying to do a job on me and had absolutely no interest because I was not getting involved with this project. But I thought, I'll drive the car. And dear God, what a good thing. It just got better and better the more I drove it. And this was just on the road. And then at lunchtime, I then got the privilege of sitting down with Mr. Dallara, Gianluca Dallara. And wow, they say never meet your heroes, but actually I'm really thrilled I did. He is the coolest man in the world. He's 84 going on 17. And I asked him, I said, tell me about the Lamborghini Miura. He says, well, I was 24 and Gandini was about 23, and the boss came in our office. And we were both designers at Lamborghini at the time, as you know. He said, I want to do a car that's extra special. Draw it. He said, well, what do you want it to look like? We said. He says, well, you're the designers, you get on with it. So we were kids. He said, anyway, within a few weeks, we designed the Miura. But none of us wanted to take it to the boss because we were terrified that he wasn't going to like it. So we were saying, oh, you go, no, you go. And finally, we went together. So we gave him the paperwork, showed him the drawing. We both thought we were losing our jobs, and he goes, that's fantastic, let's do it. And that's how the Miura was born. Now, for me to have that privilege of sitting down with that man and listening to him tell me about how he designed what I think is probably one of the most evocative cars ever was just fantastic. And I left there on a high. I didn't really want to sell their cars, even though I loved the car. Then I got a phone call when I arrived at the airport from the MD of Dallara, who said, "Joe, Mr. Dallara would like you to sell the car in the UK." I said, "But the margin you're offering me," I said, "sadly, it's really not enough for us to be able to justify doing this project. You don't understand. You have my balls in your hand. Don't squeeze too hard and you can have the deal, please, because Mr. Dallara doesn't normally tell me to do things. He expects you to do this." So of course I became the dealer and we've been selling them. I bought one for myself and I think it's fantastic. And how could I say no to a legend? I have driven an MC12 on the road. I've driven an MC12 Stradale on the road. I've driven a MC12 Corsa on the road, and I've driven an MC12 GT1 car on the road. So yeah, I tried all three. The Stradale was fantastic and I've done a lot of miles in one on the road. The Corsa was a car that had been made road legal that was a bit of a handful, but it's pretty impressive, ever so fast. And then the GT1 car was, I think I was driving it as a pace car on a rally in Italy. We went up the hill in it on wet tyres because obviously you didn't want to be on slicks with no heat in them, and that was epic. The car was just fantastic. But then I made the mistake not realising the road hadn't actually, the road had been closed for the event and then it'd been reopened, but nobody actually told me, so I then drove back to where the trucks were in the car on the road, and I'm going around the corners just sort of normal in the middle as you would, and then there's cars coming the other way and I thought, shit, this doesn't really look right. And then I realised I really shouldn't be, but I was committed, so of course I had to go all the way then, and I took it back to the truck and got it out of there as quickly as possible at that point. The short wheelbase is arguably one of the most beautiful coupes that was ever born. It's not only beautiful, it's a privilege to drive. When they've been set up well and everything's good on them, they make the perfect noise, they handle beautifully, they're predictable, they do everything that you want a car to do. And when you consider this car is 60 years old now, it's amazing. You know, it is amazing. I have driven a McLaren F1 GTR. So McLaren F1 GTR is spectacular. I think that car's all about the engine. The torque of the engine is just sublime. It has like a bubble of torque that you can drive it in any gear, and the power is just there. You just know it's there whenever you want it. It's right at the end of your foot, and you can take liberties with the car. And again, another car that I would say was ahead of its time. It was a car that you felt you could push a lot more once you got to learn how to use it. But very impressive thing. I love modern cars. I love the technology. I'm terrified of the technology of a modern car. It just, when the car suddenly stops, you just don't know what to do. You look at a laptop and press Control Alt Delete, don't you? Or you find someone who's 17 and ask them to look at it for you. That's the scary bit about them. The incredible bit about them, though, is I drive a Ferrari Lusso thing every day, and I genuinely think it's the finest everyday car in the world, and I'm very lucky that I get to drive that every day. And it's fast, it does everything you tell it to, it's comfortable, it's four-seater, the stereo works fantastically, the sat-nav works, you know, when it rains the wipers clear the windscreen, you know, if it's cold you haven't got to set fire to the passenger seat like you would in an old car. So it does everything you want it to do, and you have to go on a 500-mile journey, you just go in it, you put some fuel in it, and you don't think twice about it. And they are amazing. For me, the sad part of it is most of the manufacturers years ago, you take the best brands in the world of the Ferraris, the Aston Martins, and these sort of brands, they would build a car. And so you build the most fantastic car you can think of building. And then after you've built it, people go, oh, I want that. And people will come and buy it. Sadly, now the manufacturers are looking at the financial side first. And the downside of that is they're looking how can they make more money. Now, I can understand that as a businessman, but make the car great and then charge them for extras. That's how one would do it. And this will separate the men from the boys. It'll make it extraordinary. And that's the sad part of what's happening at the moment. Because if you do a job in a great way, you will always be compensated in a great way. And so build a car that's great, you'll get compensated, and it'll be great. MC12 over Enzo any day of the week. So I've been in a lucky position where I had an F40 and an F50 together, and never really using the F40, not because it was trying to kill me all the time, that didn't bother me. I had a girlfriend like that as well, but the F50 for me was probably and still is one of the cars that is the future. Again, quite similar to MC12 in her own way, but for me, F50 had 12 cylinders, a 6-speed gearbox, manual, everything was analog, and you had to drive it. And it's not trying to kill you. It has a lovely benign way of delivering the power, but the engine sounds lovely. It does everything. It's open top, it's closed top. The car ticks every box. So for me, personally, F50 over F40, and F50 will be, in my opinion, between the 288, F50, F40 and LaFerrari, the big five or whatever they want to call them. The 50 will be the one that stays at the top of the tree. 288 Evo or F40 LM. I think F40 LM because it's just sheer brutality is so sexy in a way that's undescribable. And you just look at it and you just look at the back and it looks like it's trying to gather up small children and spit it out the back. And you just think, yeah, gotta have one. I was lucky enough to go to the Supercar thingy at Donington. I was totally blown away with the experience, and it was, what I loved was the enthusiasm from everyone I saw there and the amount of cars that turned up. I mean, how lovely was that to see a whole paddock full of everyone's pride and joy. And it didn't matter whether you love an Aston Martin or you prefer a McLaren or you like the Porsche that's all next to it. It didn't matter. The people that turned up, it mattered to them. And there was, just as far as the eye could see, was all these pride and joys. And then the way the track day was run, fantastic. The mixture of cars, the friendliness of the people, the way it was looked after. I'd be back there in a heartbeat, and as a punter, not even as a dealer, because I just wanted to go and do it. It was fun. Driving a classic Ferrari is extraordinary. There's something about it where the car is attached to you and it's just an extension of your body, because the car is so beautifully made, so well balanced, that actually every movement and input you put in yourself, you can actually feel going through the car. And There's something quite spectacular about this, that very few cars can give you that same feeling. So it's a real privilege to drive a classic Ferrari, there's just no doubt about it.